Gary, we'll get straight into this Kiwis story. They've been here, as I've just said, from October by and large, for the most part without quarantining. So it's truly a reciprocal bubble from the 19th of April now. What's the reaction going to be, do you think? I'm told flights are booking out like hotcakes.
Yeah, understandably so, because, I mean, Peter, let's face it, the Kiwi-Australian story doesn't know any boundary. We are, without doubt, the two most isolated countries in the world. That's probably why we've dodged so much of the COVID catastrophe that you've seen in Europe and America and those big populations. But we want to have that across-the-ditch relationship in person. I have friends who've had loved ones who've passed on a year ago, unable to go. These people are tormented by the reality they can't go back to see their family and friends because of this non-existence of this travel between the two. But the problem now for New Zealand is they've got to deal with the states because New Zealand's got a central authority. You know, Jacinta Ardern can say, this is how we're going to do it. If something happens in Wellington, if something happens in Auckland, we'll deal with it. And there's going to be stop light system, green, yellow, red. But they've got to negotiate with 9 separate authorities here in Australia, the state and territory governments as well as the Commonwealth. So I'm optimistic, but welcome to our nightmare, Jacinda, because this is where the Constitution is not being used as well as it could be. The Prime Minister of Australia should be able to give some certainty to the Prime Minister of New Zealand. But, oh no, Annastacia might have a different view. Mark McGowan might have a different view. This could be problematic real fast.
You know, and they did look at joining the Federation all those years ago. They declined.
Yeah,
and they've got 2 tiers of government. We've got 3. I think on those 2 scores, I think they made the right decision. Interesting reports today, and this I found fascinating. I'd heard a whisper that there was a lot more coming home than just returning Australians, but it's been confirmed in the telly. 1 in 7 of the travellers coming back into quarantine are not citizens, not permanent residents, not even family members connected with either of those 2 groups. This is a story by James Morrow. It comes out of the border protection area. 42,000 people came back last month, 6,000 of those not Australian citizens, not permanent residents. Did that surprise you to read that today?
Not at all. I mean, Australia has relied heavily on quality people coming here on our terms and our conditions. We've decided who comes to Australia, the terms under which they've come. We've decided that really for, the last 60, 70 years since we've had our own migration system in place. So, Peter, we are, without a doubt, still cherry-picking the best. We need best and brilliant people here in Australia. This is about our economic possibilities. We've had a lot of people who've come, from one end, the seasonal workers that have come out of the Pacific Islands to come and help us get some of our crops out of the ground and off the trees that Australians won't lower themselves to do. They've kept some economies going in some regional and remote parts of Australia. And then at the other end of the scale, you've got some very clever people who've got a capacity to contribute either economically or with intelligence to the business of Australia. So it's reasonable that on case-by-case basis, people apply and we let them in. I guess everyone faces a couple of weeks mandated quarantine, and that's a price they're willing to pay.
Let's go quickly through these state movements in Newspoll. Queensland, South Australia, WA. Analysis in the Oz today say that there's a surging in support for Labor. It's all 2-party preferred, so 2PP vote, not primary vote. I prefer the primary vote, but that's what we've got to look at tonight. We're talking about the coalition, 53-47 right across the board. Queensland, Labor's clawing back. The lead there for the coalition is 53-47, so it's slimmed down. Labor's not in front, but, they're getting close. In South Australia, they're in front, 55-45 on 2PP. 12 months, I reckon, before the next election. Could be sooner if the PM gets his nose in front. But with those sort of numbers, it's got some ground to make up, certainly there in West Australia with that state result. I'm interested in your take of Queensland. Are Labor back in the game there federally, do you think?
Oh, look, I think only because people really are shopping around a bit. Look, the weak and the woke agenda that's been dominating Canberra over the last couple of years is driving people crazy. Yeah, I get it, the coronavirus. Scott Morrison has done a great job there. Josh Frydenberg, Matthias Cormann, the kind of work they've done to keep the economy kicking along is what people voted for them in huge numbers last time. So no one's going to give them necessarily a pat on the back because they've done the job that everyone expected them to do. But the weak and the woke stuff, jumping at all these other agendas, that's why Labor is so hot to trot about talking about anything else other than the economy. Trying to get people in states like Queensland and I guess also in Western Australia kind of annoyed that the Prime Minister's distracted. Peter, vision and values are the two key things that I want to see and hear more of from Scott Morrison. I'm not talking about see you in church on Sunday. I'm talking about knowing what makes sense and doing that. The vision stuff, where are we going to land Australia a quarter century from now? I have said this for years and years and years on this network. There's been no vision, no water plan, no plan for how we get people out into regions. There's just the people want to move to region stuff. There was research released a couple of weeks ago that said that 20% of people in Sydney and Melbourne want to move to the regions. But hang on, those regions are places like Byron Bay, Coffs Harbour, the Gold Coast, Noosa. I'm talking about west of the Great Divide, the places where if you get the people, once you've got the water, productivity grows and the strength of Australia's national sovereignty is improved as well. We need some big talk about the vision. Where is Australia going to be 25 years from now? Great question. Got to keep asking the Prime Minister.
Yeah, vision and values, and you're right, values isn't about the PM being pictured in church. It's about where he declined in Victoria in a recent interview with Neil Mitchell to get into the woke debate, you know, to push back against the hard left. And I say to myself, when I see him decline to do that, I think if it's that bad when there's a coalition Conservative government in Canberra, can you only imagine what it would be like with an Albanese Prime Ministership? And this is where I think people are focused. So all power to the PM. Step into the ring, mate. Step into the ring and people will support you. Gary, great to have you on the show tonight. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Peter.